mode.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Steve Wisniewski. In today's webinar, we're going to be talking about the ability to add custom properties as labels to member details. As well, we're going to be talking about creating custom buttons for and modeling for your parametrics reports and advanced selections. The first item that we're going to be talking about here in today's webinar is going to be adding custom properties as labels to member details. To start off here, I guess for those of you who may be unfamiliar, what is a custom property? Custom properties are just user-creatable tags that can be applied to your members, materials, bolts, holes, and welds within modeling. They can be used for tracking purposes. They can be brought into reports and displayed with status displays. Additionally here, custom properties can be used to split apart member and material piece marks. They can then be added to the remarks column of your bill of material. And then the new item that we're going to be talking about today is going to be the fact that they can be added as a label to member details. For the time being here, I want to stress that currently this functionality of being able to add as a label only applies to member details. So as an example of this, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to edit a column, and I already have a custom property set up for this. I'm going to go into my properties and I'm going to use user comment 1. I'm just going to type in UC1 and hit OK. And we'll go ahead and bring up the detail of this just so we can see where this label is going to get placed at and what this is doing. So I applied the custom property as a string, and now that I bring up my member detail here, right down here at the bottom relative to my member callout below it, I have that string entity that I just entered, UC1. So that's what we're doing here. So that's just an example. Now to actually get into creating one of these custom properties. To create a custom property, there's going to be 2 steps. The first step is going to be what we need to do within your job setup. So I'm going to go to my options pull down and go into my job options. Down below we have our custom properties for members. I'm going to go into here. If you created a new job and you use one of either the default or design data flavor file, you may have several pre-existing custom properties. Additionally, you can go through and create your own. That's what we're going to do for right now. So I'm going to click the Add button. For the entry name, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to put in what I'd like to have used. This is not anything that's really going to be seen too well, I guess too much within your member edit screen. This is going to be what SDS2 is going to look for or as the variable. So I'm going to call this one model checked. With the entry name, a couple important entities you need to be aware of is one, it cannot start with any number. It cannot contain any type of special character, and it cannot contain any spaces. So if you notice, I use model checked, no space. For my value type, I'm going to use a Boolean. And then for my prompt, this is what I am going to actually see in my member edit screen, and I can contain spaces and special characters such as asterisks and parentheses. I'm just going to use model approved here. Notice I did put a space in there. Below, I'm going to leave my default value set to no. And then below those 3 items I mentioned earlier, we can split piece marks, add to the remarks column bill of material, and the new one, being able to add to the member detail. So once you check on the ability to add to the member detail, you have all your different label settings you can specify. Here we can alter the font and font style. On that first member, that C2 that I went through and I applied the UC1 to the user comment, I mentioned that it went below my member callout. There's actually 9 locations that you can place your label for your custom properties. They're going to be relative to either your main material or relative to your member callout. I can check on whatever ones I would need to here. That one that previously was done was below my member callout. I want to show just a quick example of all the different locations. So I'm going to jump out here real quick, and I'm going to go into Drawing Editor. I have a beam detailed. I created 9 custom properties here just to give a demo of this. So relative to my main material, I have left end and my right end, top flange, bottom flange, and then centered. And relative to your member callout is directly above, left, right, and below. One thing, just so you guys are aware of, with these custom property labels is that there are times where you might find that they might overwrite or they might be placed in a different location than what you was expecting. such as this left end here. Maybe I want to have the left end to get pushed over a little bit farther so it's outside of my work point and outside of my main material. Well, what I can do is I'm going to go back into my custom properties, and I'm going to edit that specific custom property. Down here at the bottom, I have my left end Boolean. I'm going to click Edit. And this time here, I'm just going to go through and I'm going to specify maybe my origin. I'm going to go, instead of lower left, maybe we'll go lower right. And as well, maybe we'll put an offset on there of -6 inches in the x-axis. So from here, I'll just go ahead and hit OK and hit Exit. And I will redetail this member. There, now I can see my left end, that this label that's relative to my main material on the left end has now got pushed out beyond my work point label, and it's justified on the lower right instead of the lower left. Okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to create that custom property again that we were working on. I called that model checked. It was a Boolean, and I'm going to leave this one called the prompt for a model approved. I'll add to the member detail. For this one here, I'm going to set it to be below my member callout. Additionally here, with the relative to either the member callout or main material, I quickly demoed it there, but you also have the ability to specify an offset distance from that location. You can put in a negative or positive number here, depending on what direction you want to go. In my y-axis, negative is going to go down, positive will go up. I want to put in -18 inches. One thing to be aware of with this offset from selected locations is that it's only going to be basically an inch decimal value. You cannot put in 1'6". You have to type in 18 inches. Down below, you're going to see, for the most part, all of your other standard label settings, such as my origin, justification, my height and width height ratio, the pin color. If you'd like to rotate this label, maybe I'd want to put a border around there. Maybe we'll go to rectangle and put a magenta border around there. If I want to put a gap, maybe a 1/2 inch gap on that. And down here at the bottom, we have the order. We'll come back and talk about exactly what that's going to do for us here after a bit. But for right now, I've created my, like I said, the first portion of my custom property setup. I'm just going to go and click OK here. And I'm going to exit here and close out of modeling. Like I said, when creating custom properties, there's two portions. You have your job setup, and then as well, you'll have to go through and create the Python side of it. So I'm going to browse to my job. And in your job folder, you have a folder called Custom. In this custom folder, you're going to have, at least in our case here, the member.py. This is going to be the Python file containing all the information about the custom properties. This is going to be used for basically the formatting of the custom property, so you have all your different tabs. I'm going to edit that with WordPad. And from here, I'd go through and figure out where exactly I'd want to have this new custom property created. To keep everything sort of together that I'm going to be using, I'm going to include this new custom property under the Approval tab. And I'm going to do so, I'm just going to go through and copy an existing Boolean. I'm going to paste that in there. And I'm just going to change the values that I really need to change here. The first item within the quotes for a checkbox is going to be that entry name. Like I said, the variable name that SDS2 is looking for. Like I said, there's no spaces in it. Call that model checked. And then the second entity here within quotes is going to be the actual prompt that we're going to see. So I had that set to model approved. From here, after I'm done making all my changes, I'm just going to save this file. And I can close that Python file now. If I go back into modeling here, and let's just edit another column here. I'm going to go C3 on this side and open up my properties window. I now have that model approved checkbox I just created here. So once again, when you create those custom properties, you have those two portions, the job setup and then the Python setup. The one thing that I really wanted to show there is that even though we're using this model approved to add as a label to member details, there's nothing different that you need to do within that Python file. It's standard as it was before. So now to approve this model approved checkbox and to display another situation, I'm going to check on model approved for this custom property and click OK. And let's go ahead and bring up the detail of this. When I detailed C2 there the first time, I used the user comment 1, which is a string custom property. And if you notice, I typed in UC1, and that's exactly what I saw as my label on my member detail. Now that I'm using a Boolean, one item you need to be aware of is the label that's actually going to get added is going to be your entry name. Here, if you notice, I have model checked and not model approved. There's no space there. So like I said, that's just one thing you need to be aware of. These custom properties as a member label will go through and use that entry name when it's a Boolean custom property type. Now, so far everything that we've demoed on so far has been a quantity of 1 for that member. If I jump back into my model, what's going to happen when I have a member with a quantity greater than 1 and potentially mixed fields for those custom properties? Here, if you can notice, I have 4 B11s in my model. Member number 11, 33, 32, and 12. I'm just going to select one right in the middle, member number 12 for B11, and I'm going to apply that custom property model approved here again. And from here, I'll just go back to my main menu, and I'll go to Detail Members, and let's redetail B11. And we're going to see what's going to happen out of that. Let's B11. When you have mixed fields within a custom property, when you're adding it as a label, you're going to get the member numbers called out. Here I can see that I only applied that model check custom property to member number 12 for B11. And all the other member numbers that's unspecified, if this was a string value, it would potentially show all the different string entities or values I input for each one of those member numbers. Now, if I multi-edit all these and apply that same custom property, so all 4 of them have the same custom property, it's not a mixed field, you should no longer see all the different member numbers being called out. It's just going to call out the custom property and the label there. So I'm going to redetail B11 again and open up Drawing Editor. Now notice now that all those members and that within B11 all have the exact same custom property. I just get model checked instead of it listing every individual member number. So just another item to be aware of. Now what would happen, we saw that when we created those custom properties there at the beginning within my job options, there was several other custom properties that currently existed. As you can see, I have my finish, back-checked, bar-coded, and so on. Any number of these could be added as a label to your member detail. What would happen now if we had multiple custom properties mapped to the exact same location? As an example, as a demo of this is going to tie in that order number. I want to just come back down here to the model checked custom property I just created just to show. I'm at order number 19 here. And I'm going to come back up, and we're just going to use one that we've already used, user comment 1. That's at order number 1. And I'm going to alter user comment 2. I'm going to add that to my member detail below. We'll go negative 18 inches in the y-axis. This one here, I am not going to put any border around. Notice here we have order number 10. And then finally, I'm also going to use user comment 3. Add my member detail below, negative 18 inches in the Y, order number 11, and same thing here, no border around my member detail. So I'm going to click OK and click Exit. I'm going to take a look what happens. I'm going to edit C2 and go into my properties. I'm going to check on model approved. I'll type in UC2 so we can see that one. And for user comment 3, we'll go UC3. Let's hit OK and OK. And let's bring up the detail there of C2 again. Here are a couple things to be aware of. So like I said, the lower the order number, basically the higher the priority. So my first label down here is going to be UC1 that had order number 1. UC2, I believe, was 10, 11, and then model checked was order number 19. Like I mentioned here before, I did not put a border around UC2 or UC3. UC1 and model check did have a border around there. But if you notice, this does have a border around the entire thing. When you do map labels to the exact same location relative to the main material, relative to the member callout, and the multiple labels will be placed there, it's going to combine them all into one label. If I edit this, I can see this is all one label. I have my rectangle around there. If I was to come back in here and go into my custom properties, and let's say I just reorder these, I'm going to take model approved here. I'm going to click edit. Like I said, I want to take note we do have a magenta border and not a red border. And I'm going to change my order number here to 1 instead of 19. We knew that user comment 1 was set to an order number 1. As soon as I hit OK there, the system's automatically going to update user comment 1's order, therefore preventing the potential for overwriting labels. If I come in here to user comment 1 and click edit, I can see that's now order number 2. And if I redetail my member, I can see that model checked is now at the top because that's got the lowest order number or highest priority, and now I have a magenta border because that's what model checked was set to use as my border here. The final thing you need to be aware of with custom properties added as member labels, especially when you're mapping to the same location, is that during dimensioning and during detailing, we're not going to map these. Therefore, if the system's going to put this label exactly where you tell it to do so, let's say I did not put an offset on there, or this label, I have several labels being added here. I'm just going to do approximately here. I'm going to add in a construction line approximately at the center of the K. And let's go perpendicular there. And let's go down. I was using negative 18 inches. You can see what's happening is it's going 18 inches relative to my member call out here, and it's locating the lowest order or the lowest priority number there. UC3, I guess, was that the highest order number or lowest priority. And it's going to that portion and then working the dimensions up from there. So, as an example, just something to be aware of and to be careful of, if I change my model checked, instead of 18 inches, I map that maybe negative 6 inches here. And then let's redetail it. Oops, I need to close out of here first so those changes take effect. And let's bring up that detail again. You can see what's going to happen. Now this is just a label, so I can click and drag it as needed. That's all there really is to adding labels as custom properties to member details. From here, we're going to jump into adding toolbar icons or creating custom icons for your toolbar within modeling. These can be created for, like I mentioned before, your reports, parametrics, and advanced selections. Briefly here, I'm just going to load up another toolbar. There we go. So really, what's potential use of this? Creating these custom icons or custom buttons for your in modeling can be very useful if you have a parametric or maybe a report that you run very often. And instead of having to browse to it every single time, you can just create an icon and it'll automatically run based on what that's supposed to do. I already have a few created up here. These 4 up here are just going to be advanced selections that's going to go through and select all my members in a particular sequence. So here, if I go through and just as a demo, like I said, this is going to be my advanced selection to select everything in sequence 1. All I have to do is click it and it runs. From there, I can multi-edit, do anything else. So now, how do we go through and create these custom buttons on here? Well, I guess the first and most important item on this is going to be that script or that code for either the advanced selections, the reports, or the parametric that must already exist, because all we're going to do is provide a link through this button to wherever that code is saved at. And so like I said, that you must have that parametric already created and saved before you can create a custom button for it. And to create a custom button now, I'm going to go to my options within modeling and go into my toolbar configurations. Right up top here next to your command group, you're going to have this Launcher Manager. If we go into Launcher Manager, like I said, there's 3 different items that you can create these custom buttons for: Parametrics, Reports, and Modeling or Advanced Selections. I've already got a few created. We're going to create a few here on our own, though. So I'm going to start off by creating a parametric custom button. I'm going to come in here, select Parametrics, and click Add. Really not too much to the screen. For the button text, this is going to be if you don't want to use an image, what type of text would you like to have on that button, such as down here, maybe you have like the status display checkbox. That's just going to be a very standard text-based icon. Here for this one, the first custom button I'm going to create for this parametric, and we're going to create one for a column stiffener. Maybe I want to run that quite a bit. I'll call this one column stiffener for the button text. For the hover text, this is going to be what's actually going to be displayed within your status line, or if you have your balloon descriptions turned on, if you hover over the icon, what's going to get displayed in that balloon text. So maybe for my hover text, I'll put in there column stiffener parametric. That way we all know what it is. For the script, pretty basic here. Where is that script, the parametric file, actually saved at? So I'm going to go ahead and browse to wherever that might be saved at. Here in our case right now, I have this on my desktop. Here's my callstiff underscore version 2.08 Python file. Okay, from here, what icons would I like to have used? If you would like to use an icon like I've used up here, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to browse, and I'll point out a few different items that you might want to use for these custom icons here for you. For this first one, I'm just going to use this icon right here. All this is I ran the parametric once and I took a screenshot of the model. That's one good way you can easily go through and create a good image. That way it'll be very descriptive on what this parametric, what this button's supposed to do for you. And I'm going to use the same image there for my larger icon as well as the smaller icon. Parametrics. And from there, all I have to do is click OK. It's been added to that list. So you can definitely go through and use your different screenshots and whatnot to create the different custom buttons. Another one, if you notice here already on my toolbar, I have one down here for my HSS wall preps where I want to put bevels on the end of square tubes. This icon here, this image, all I did for this was use the image right from my macro examples folder. So another location you can find good images for pre-existing parametrics is if you browse your data directory in the macro folder, you're going to have a folder called images, and you're going to have different images for all the different parametrics that we provide that come default with SDS2. You can come in here and you can locate and use one of these images for any of your custom icons that you'd like. You also have the ability to go through, and if you'd like to download additional custom download images from the website, or you could design them with Paint. If you have other, I guess, more advanced Photoshop type of softwares, you can definitely use those. Another free one that's commonly used is called GIMP. So I'll let you guys look into those and exactly what type of icons you'd want to create. I'm going to create one more parametric custom button. Notice it does retain my previous information. So I'm going to replace this one. This next parametric is going to be for a reduced flange connection, a reduced flange parametric. So I'm going to call this one reduced flange. Maybe for the hover text, I'll leave it reduced flange parametric. Once again, I'll browse to where that script or where that file is actually saved at. Go to my parametrics. Here's my reduced flange on my beam. And then if I'd like to use an icon, here in this situation, I'm just going to demo that I did go online and I was able to find an icon online that might be usable. I'm going to use this picture of a dog bone. I think that worked perfectly here. And I'm going to use that for both a small and large icon here on this one as well. If you have two separate images, you can definitely use two separate images, for one for a small and one for a large icon if you would like. And click OK. So now I've went through, I've created a couple more parametric custom icons. To add those, we've created them. Now to actually add those as a icon on my toolbar, under your command group, if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, once you already create these, if you have not created anything through the launcher manager, these entities will not exist. But I have my parametric launchers. Here's my column stiffener parametric that I've just created. Maybe bring that across. Maybe if I wanted to use the text space, I could use the text space. And then here's my reduced flange parametric that I just added as well. From here, I can click OK. If I'd like, I can save those. And now, if I'd want to run one of those as an example, maybe I'd want to run a column stiffener here. And I have several situations of that. I already have that icon on my toolbar. I can go to column stiffener add, select my column, no, select a beam potentially. I'm going to hit OK. For these purposes, I'm just going to leave everything for the most part at the default values and exit. So there, as you can see, like I said, I just quickly ran that column stiffener parametrics, and versus going down here and doing a parametric run and browsing for it. Maybe I needed to run it again over here. Maybe I had several other columns I needed to run that on. I could definitely do so. So like I said, that's going to be just creating a few. I want to go through and I want to create one more custom icon here, just as another proof of concept. Under my reports, I'm going to create a new one. And maybe we'll call this one FB summary for a field bolt summary. For my field text or hover text, I'll call it field bolt summary report. Once again, I'll browse to where that script or that actual report is saved at. And if you create your own custom reports or you create your own custom parametrics, you can include any one of those scripts within a custom button as well. Here's my field bolt summary report. And what I want to prove here is that I do not have to have, or I do not have to use any type of particular icon. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to get rid of all of my information there for my small and large icons and hit OK. So it's been created. And now if I go back to my command group, I have my report launchers. Here's the field bolt summary report that I just created. Click OK. And we'll save that. So now, just as an example here, just to prove, these are going to work exactly the same as if you were to go through and actually go to parametric run, or go to advanced selection run, or go to run report writer run, however you'd want to go through and do so. I just want to prove that these will work exactly the same. So maybe if I want to go through, I created a custom icon up here for, it's basically a shipping list report that's going to list information based on the members that I have selected. So this report is set up to run based off of member numbers. So as an example, I'm going to select everything in sequence 1, and then I'm going to run this wait for truck report. There, you can see it just went through and ran just as it would if I would have went through and did it the other method, going through to run report writer run. And same thing here, just as another proof. If I have no member selected, it will still bring up my member number list. Now, a couple other additional items here to be aware of is that all this information, when you go through and you create these custom icons or custom buttons, they're going to be stored and they're going to get copied across into your local data directory, into your data directory. So if I browse into my data directory, you're now going to have a folder in here called launchers. If I open up my launchers, here's my parametric. Here's the three that I had, the column stiffener, the wall prep, and reduced flange. If I open up my column stiffener, I can see I have a config file. Basically, it's just talking about and going to save the information about the hover text and button text. the icons that I potentially use, and the script file. So I guess that's the meaning here. Since this information gets copied across into your data directory, that means that I can go through and create all these custom buttons, and anybody else that is using SDS2 off of this data directory, they will have access to all these same custom icons that I've just created without creating them by themselves on their own. Additionally, like I said, this information is copied. So if I went back in there, maybe my reduced flange, this is my script. I could potentially open that up maybe with WordPad. And you're going to see I do have my script of the actual parametric. Therefore, meaning if my original file gets changed, deleted, removed, renamed, anything else along those lines, such I had it in here. Here's that column stiffener and reduced flange. If anything happens to these and they get deleted, because that file did get copied across into my data directory, the parametrics and these custom buttons will still run. Now, let's say for an example, you go through and you've had these custom buttons created and something needs to change about them. Potentially the script changes, you update your parametric or you update your report to include more information or to fix a potential problem. How do you go through and revamp or bring in that new script into the custom button? Back in my toolbar configuration, if I go back into my launcher manager, for an example here, if I go to my reports, like I said, maybe my icon needs a change. I don't like that for whatever reason. I can select the item that I want to change, and I'll click Edit. From here, like I said, if my script changed and the actual file name saved, the file name changed, I'll need to go through and I will have to browse for a new location and browse that new location for that new file. Here for my example, I do have a completely separate image to use. So I'm going to change my small icon here. And maybe to a different truck image. And I'll change that for both of them. Open. And all you should have to do is go ahead and check on this update installed icon and script files and hit OK. I'll close that. And from there, you see all I have to do is hover my mouse over that new icon and it automatically changes. The other thing I want to point out in here is if I was to come through and make a change within these and the file name did not change, so potentially the script that I have named wait for truck is the actual file name. If I made changes to that within Report Writer and I gave it the exact same name and left it in the exact same location, all I would have to do is come in here and click Update Installed Icon and Script Files. Upon hitting OK and closing, it'll automatically go through and copy that information from that location again and paste it into my launchers folder within my data directory again. Once again, just as the proof. Here. Nonetheless, it would automatically copy over into this new location. And then from there, that's really wraps up the end of our webinar here. We've talked about creating custom properties and adding those custom properties as labels to member details, and as well we've covered going through and creating new custom icons for your reports, parametrics, and advanced or modeling selections within modeling. If you have any questions, feel free to contact your support rep by phone or email, and they'll be gladly help out any questions that you may have. Thank you.